Hazardous and toxic chemicals can be found in many areas of the theater. Some of these chemicals have become valuable aids in building sets, costumes, and props. However, these same helpful chemicals can come with expensive and often unknown price tags. Your health and life. Take a look in here. Paint and varnish remover, shellac, leather dye, polyester resin, spray adhesive. These commonly used chemicals can affect your lungs, liver, heart, brain, and skin. They interfere with how your body works. Sometimes the interference is minor. Other times it causes illness and even death. There are 3 ways toxic chemicals can enter the body and cause damage: skin contact, inhalation, and ingestion. Number 1, skin contact. Chemicals break down natural skin barriers to enter the body and perhaps enter the bloodstream. Certain solvents can enter the body with no apparent damage to the skin. Turpentine and lacquer are examples of these types of chemicals. Number 2, inhalation. Chemical vapors, resin vapors, and welding fumes enter the body through the air you breathe and can damage lung tissue immediately. Breathing certain dusts and mists can take time to affect your body. Certain substances can pass through your lungs, into your bloodstream, and on to other vital organs. Number 3, ingestion. Foolish as it sounds, toxic materials are often inadvertently eaten. Dirty hands with paint materials, foam bits, and chemical residue taken in accidentally can lead to illness and permanent disability. Here are 6 ways to protect yourself from chemical poisoning. Consult the Material Safety Data Sheets, MSDSs, that are required by law to accompany chemicals. If there are no MSDSs, don't use the materials. MSDSs have the following basic information divided into easy-to-read blocks: material identification and name, ingredients and hazards, some technical physical data, fire and explosion information, reactivity, how it reacts with other materials, and decomposition data, health hazard information, or how it will react in and on the body, information on spills, leaks, and disposal, special protection information including ventilation, and special precautions and other comments. By law, these MSDSs must be made available to all workers. The second way to protect yourself from chemical harm is to use the MSDSs to determine which products contain the least amount of toxic ingredients. Number 3, use water-based or latex products. Number 4, use products that don't create dust or mists. Avoid airborne particles and eye and lung contamination by using a glove box for the mixing of bronzing powder, dyes, and other fine substances. Here, a plastic cover has been put over a cardboard box so that the mixing and stirring can happen inside a closed environment. Number 5, proper ventilation. Proper ventilation is the most effective protection against airborne contaminants. Proper ventilation is also the most neglected type of protection available to theater workers. Simply opening doors and windows is not enough to create proper ventilation. Use local exhaust ventilation to capture toxic materials at their source before they have a chance to harm you. Arrange work areas so fresh air flows past the workers before it gets contaminated. Be sure there is no one receiving the contaminated air beyond the workplace. A simple test for proper ventilation is to use soap bubbles. Put a few bubbles in the air and watch where they go. If they move up and away from the proposed work site, it's safe to work there. Number 6, use personal protection equipment such as gloves, face shields, eye protection, hearing protection, respirators, and masks. Use a glove chart to match the glove you need to the job you're doing. Glove charts also give the length of time it takes for various solvents and chemicals to permeate the gloves without changing their appearance. No one glove type will stop all chemicals. Use safety eyewear to protect yourself from flying particles, dusts, chemical splashes, and radiant light. OSHA requires eye protection that meets the ANSI Z87.1 standards for impact protection. Glasses and goggles that meet OSHA standards have a Z87 stamped on them. Goggles are the best eye protection in the theater. There are safety glasses that meet OSHA standards, such as semi-side shields and side cup shields that protect from the top and bottom too, but with the many hazards found backstage, it's best to use goggles. Face shields are only effective when used with other ANSI-approved eye protection and are most needed when there is a chance of wood splintering or other flying hazards that could cause damage to the face. Gas-permeable contact lenses are designed to absorb oxygen and other gases from the air. Unfortunately, they also absorb toxic gases and solvent vapors. These gases and vapors are trapped to the eye by the lens, causing severe irritation. Hard contact lenses are also a problem. If an irritating chemical is splashed in the eye, precious time can be lost while the lens is removed. Contact lenses should never be worn around toxic or irritating liquids. People with vision problems should wear their regular framed glasses under chemical splash goggles. Dust masks and respirators help protect against airborne hazards. Dusts, fumes, and mists are tiny particles that can be seen as they float through the air. But some types of mists and dusts are extremely fine and not normally visible. These go deeper in the lungs. Dust is caused by sawing, sanding, and sweeping. Fumes come from operations like welding and soldering. Mists are made when spraying and smoke occur. Gases and vapors are invisible contaminants suspended in the air. Gases are produced by chemical processing and high heat operations. Vapors are the result of evaporation from solvents, paints, and varnishes. Disposable dust masks are for particles only. They trap airborne particles before you breathe them. Use only NIOSH-approved disposable dust masks. Pinch the metal nose clip to mold the mask to your face and ensure a snug fit. Use only NIOSH-approved toxic dust masks that have 2 straps. One-strap masks are for household use and protect against pollens. They are not approved for use with toxic dusts and airborne hazards found in theaters. These are designed to be thrown away after use. Don't hang the masks up to collect dust, then return to wear them. Cartridge respirators purify the air by capturing gases and vapors before they enter your airway. When you exhale, a valve opens to let old air out, then closes so contaminated air can't enter. Each cartridge is made for a specific gas or vapor hazard. Use a cartridge chart to determine the best cartridge for your job. Do not interchange cartridges from one manufacturer to the mask of another. They may not fit properly. OSHA requires employers to provide ventilation for control of toxic air contaminants and allows for the use of respirators only as a last resort. OSHA usually approves respirators for situations where they are only needed occasionally or when ventilation systems are being installed or repaired. OSHA requires employers to have a written respirator program describing how they will provide medical checkups and fit testing for each wearer and for respirator selection and training. A half mask will not protect you unless it is sealed to your face. Facial hair, scars, and such will prevent a secure fit. Respirator users report that they prefer to use their own personal equipment since the soft rubber of the mask adapts to individual facial contours as the rubber ages. Respirators should be fitted to each person by a trained expert and records kept on who is approved to wear which equipment. Here are 3 ways to test a cartridge before entering a hazardous area. Number 1. The negative fit test. Place palms over the cartridge openings and inhale for 10 seconds. You should feel the mask pull into your face. Number 2. The positive fit test. Gently place a finger or 2 over the exhalation valve opening and exhale gently into the mask. You should feel pressure into the facepiece. Another test is to place banana oil on a cotton ball and check the seal around the face. If you smell banana oil, you have a leak. Respirators should be cleaned often, and most importantly, kept in a sealed container to maintain the filter's effectiveness. Each cartridge has its own time limit of protection, which should be included in the instructions. The useful service life of a respirator cartridge filter will vary with the nature of hazardous atmosphere and activity of the user. A rule of thumb for cartridge time limits is that they are effective for 10 days, or 8 hours of use, or when an odor is detected, which might be sooner.
Children and animals have a lower level of tolerance for toxins than adults do. Keep pets and children out of the workplace when working with chemicals. Exposures to chemicals can have serious consequences on both the female and male reproductive systems, with the effect of toxins on males often being overlooked. Toxic effect on males include abnormal development of sperm and a long list of other symptoms that can lead to impaired fertility and a multitude of adverse effects on offspring.
While females have all of their eggs at the time of birth, sperm production is both continuous and cyclical and does not begin until puberty. For the male, the 3 months prior to conception are of greatest concern, since it takes that long for sperm to form and mature.
Toxic exposure to the female during pregnancy can have adverse effects on both the mother and the unborn child.
This is a very complicated area. There might well be other reproductive and cumulative hazards that affect the body's tolerance level. If you believe you have been exposed to hazardous chemicals, contact your physician or one of the health consultants named at the end of the video for a physician referral in your area of the country.
Women and men, play it safe.
Use a formal waste management program to dispose of toxic chemical wastes. Store leftover chemicals for pickup. Never pour chemicals into a sink or dump them down a storm drain.
If you're in a theater operation that doesn't have a formal waste management program, don't use chemicals that require this level of disposal. Instead, use the suitable substitutes for oil-based paints, cleaners, and chemical solvents.
There are many friendly materials on the market that do not need all the chemical and heat procedures required of more traditional supplies.
We now know how hazardous industrial air pollution and secondhand smoke can be. Yet we don't think twice about going to concerts or performing on stages where the air is so filled with smoke that we can hardly see. People are designed to breathe fresh air. If you can see the air, it's probably not fresh, and it's not safe. Anytime there are chemicals in the air, there is some degree of hazard, regardless of the non-toxic labels on many theatrical fog and smoke products. Though technically non-toxic, the improper use of some of these products can cause allergy symptoms and asthma attacks.
A number of lawsuits by individuals who allege severe allergic reactions to fog and smoke products have resulted in smoke juice manufacturers and theater production companies paying large cash settlements.
Designers who alter or tamper with commercial fog products or mix their own products also can be sued personally for any harm these cause. This is because legally they can be considered a manufacturer. Dry ice is the least toxic of fog and smoke products and only becomes hazardous when used in amounts that inhibits breathing. Dry ice speeds up the breathing process, causing a person to breathe faster and take in even more oxygen-depleted air. This commonly happens to musicians when the cold, heavy, carbon dioxide-rich fog spills off the stage and fills the orchestra pit.
Another dangerous situation arises when low-lying fog is mixed with theatrical smoke. People in the fog will tend to breathe faster and take in the more hazardous smoke. Also, never lay down in dry ice fog. There might not be sufficient oxygen.
When using chemical fog and smoke, read the MSDSs. Workers who have allergies or asthma may not be able to work in fog and smoke and should check with their physicians first. Many theaters use what is referred to as cracked oil to create beautifully sculptured mists that lighting designers love. This is usually mineral oil put under pressure and propelled into the air. Unlike some other commercial smokes and fogs that only cause an allergic or asthma reaction, mineral oil settles deep in the lungs and stays there.
It is not always absorbed into the body like some other smokes and fogs. some is retained.
Since audience members cannot be screened for asthma or other allergies, they must be protected through adequate ventilation that prevents smoke and fog from floating into the audience area. Provide large signs in the lobby to warn audience members when fog and smoke are being used. Designers are often exposed to health risks from the materials they use to create models and drawings.
Art, theater, and industrial products do not have to meet the same long-term testing requirements for cancer, reproductive hazards, and the like, as do drugs and cosmetics. Therefore, even products labeled non-toxic may not have been adequately tested. A good rule here is to reduce exposure to the lowest level possible.
Many designers use oven-cured polymer clays like Fimo and Sculpey to help create scenic models.
Fimo and Sculpey have been linked to causing enlarged livers in animal tests.
They have either been labeled non-toxic or not labeled at all, because they have not yet been studied for cancerous effects. Industrial hygienist Monona Rasal categorizes these materials as not suitable for children or pregnant women. Adults who choose to take the risk should use polymer clays in studios that are separated from living areas. Curing should be done in an oven which is never used for food and whose emissions are vented outside. Scrupulous hygiene should be practiced. Hands should be washed after each use. Nitrile gloves, which help protect against chemical penetration, may provide protection. In other words, treat all non-toxic materials with great respect. Spray paints and fixatives used in the model making and drawing area are also hazardous. You must have a special ventilation system, such as a spray booth, to use these products safely.
Our lungs are not meant to be exposed to large amounts of dust and sprays. Medical studies have correlated particulate concentrations in the air with higher rates of respiratory problems.
Remember, if you don't eat it, breathe it, or get it all over yourself, you haven't been exposed to it.